Hey guys, average guy here. My real name's Tim. I don't know how, I haven't posted here in a while, but my name's Tim. Um, I don't regret the title average guy for this channel, but my name's Tim. Anyways, I usually post up epiphanies, reflections, kind of little peeks into how I think and insights that I have throughout my life. And I've gone through a lot of really intense stuff, and I think it's a really appropriate time to post another video on this channel for those of you that were attracted to how I think or how I kind of reflect on life. So this was spurred on because there's a video I did earlier on this channel for an anxiety disorder called HOCD, but it's fundamentally just anxiety. And it's all of these things that I'm going to say are applicable to anyone that is anxious or something like that. So let's just jump right in. The first thing that has radically improved or at least augmented my ability to get through some of the more difficult emotions and thoughts and physiological states that anxiety can produce is mindfulness. And everybody talks about this, and I've always been someone that learns things and then thinks because they've abstracted it and learned it that they know it now and that they don't have to actually put it into practice. It wasn't on purpose, but this is kind of, I've lived in my head, for the majority of my life for various different reasons. So when you're actually mindful, what mindfulness is essentially is, there's this inner roommate, there's this person that's talking to you all the time in your head, and when you are not able to tune out that voice, then you're essentially kind of constantly responding to a make-believe story, and it will take over your life, and it can take you out of the present moment and have you living completely in fantasy, and even worse, a fearful fantasy. And it can also make you very self-absorbed. So the first thing that I've learned and have been applying and has made huge leaps for me is that, when my mood is low, or when I'm really anxious, or when I'm thinking of beautiful, fantastic, or terrible, catastrophic thoughts, that instead of going down the path of them, even if they feel good or really bad, I just come back to the fact that I'm making a video with you and I'm holding this pencil in my hand, and that being in this moment right here and putting my attention on this and getting curious and really connected to this moment is where life is actually happening. So when things happen to us that are really, 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 really difficult, it's incredibly useful to understand that they are waves, like anxiety or falling in love or anger or whatever. They're waves that are going through our minds that will eventually crash. And the way that you keep them around is by trying to resist them or trying to analyze them, or essentially not being mindful, going into them. But what mindfulness allows you to do is, as you're going through the wave, as you're going through whatever distress you're going through, you can let the wave crash in the background and get into this present moment like a practice. And this isn't a difficult thing. All you have to do is literally just take 5 minutes. That's what I started with, 5 minutes a day, and just pay attention to your breath, or pay attention to exactly how the dishes feel when you're doing them, or pay attention to the video that you watch in the morning. I love doing that. Mindfully watching a YouTube video is awesome. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that there is no such thing as black and white in life, and everything in life ultimately is existing in this gray area. So when you're distressed or when you're having a rough time, generally speaking, you've made the mistake of going from one polarity to the other, or existing in exclusively one of those polarities. And when you acknowledge that life happens in this gray area, that, say hypothetically, I don't know if I should be with this person or shouldn't be with this person, or should take this job or shouldn't take this job, we can fall into the trap of, we have to do this right. There is a clear right answer, and I have to figure out what that right answer is. There's a perfectionistic element to it. But the truth is that you take the job comes with its own unforeseen problems that you'll have to navigate through regardless. You don't take the job, same thing. You leave the relationship and you end up dealing with the new problems of loneliness, or maybe a less connected or less fun relationship afterward, and those will be new problems. You stay in the relationship and you end up dealing with all of the anxiety of taking care of yourself, somebody else, of showing up for them, of failing, that kind of thing. So black and white thinking, we're always in the gray area. That's the second insight I have for you today. The other one is to slow down and use your intuition. When you're in distress or when you're in the throes of anxiety, it's easy to try and rush through things. We want to make ourselves feel better, so we search up, what therapies are the best, or we try to just distract ourselves, or whatever it is. And it ends up backfiring because you often, in rushing through things, you either have to make up for the distracted time at a later date, which accrues interest, or you end up making decisions or doing behaviors that you aren't really committed to or aligned with. So when you feel like you have to make a choice, remind yourself that you can trust a quieter impulse to be patient and wait for insight to come when it's ready, instead of trying to force it or force yourself out of an uncomfortable situation. And that kind of brings me to the last point here, and that is that there's this idea of resistance and surrender that is so important. And whether you realize it or not, when you wake up and you go throughout your life, there's going to be things throughout the day that you don't want to feel, or that you don't want to happen, or that you don't want to just deal with. And it's this resistance that is paradoxically kind of embedding the problem deeper into your psyche, and it's having the reverse effect of blowing up the problem balloon rather than deflating it. So yeah, whatever is happening in this moment, regardless of whether or not it's a distressing thought or a difficult problem, there is an element of you that is wanting to resist it and won't want to deal with it because you just don't know if you can, or maybe it's too painful, or this or that. But if you start to get into the practice of not resisting things and trusting that you can surrender and that it will pass on its own time, and that you can almost like take a leap into the things that you're afraid of, or the distress that you're afraid of, and trusting that it will have its time with you, but eventually it will leave on its own, just like the wave crashing. But it won't be able to crash. The wave can't crash unless you're willing to surrender and you're willing to let the wave take you. It's like being on a surfboard. It's like you can't control, you can't control how you surf. You can't control the wave. You can't plan out surfing. You have to just kind of surrender and flow with it and make decisions as it goes. And that's kind of what resistance and surrender is. It's just really important. And I would say the last thing I'll say is that a lot of times I would make decisions when I was in a place of anxiety, or I felt like I needed to do things. And the bottom line is that the best decisions that you'll ever make, they happen when you're calm. And if you want to make better decisions and you want your life to kind of unfold in a way that is on your terms and that feels wholesome and aligned for you, then the backwards way to do it is to cultivate this sense of calmness as a practice, to get 1% better every day, to say, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to at some point meditate for 5 minutes, and I'm going to do this for 50 days, knowing that the first 35 days will have no effect. But I'll wait for that compounding interest. It's like when you double a penny for 30 days, you end up with $8 million, but up until I think like the 23rd day, you're still at a very low amount of money. It's compounding interest that shoots you up. So yeah, so that's what I have for you guys today. Hopefully everyone's doing well, all my subscribers and just human beings out there living their lives. Hope you guys are all right. Comment, let me know how you're doing. Would love to know. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.